DC here. Hi guys and gals. Well, yeah, another lunchtime vlog. I'm alone, it's quiet, and why not? I thought I'd chat about something slightly different, although I touched on it a couple of vlogs ago, about using imagination, and using imagination in a way to convey messages. Now, some of you have seen, in the last week or so, that there's been a collab. Two videos came out, like the Super Tweetnes comic book collab. Now, if you were expecting it to be a silly slapstick type of comic, you'd be wrong. There's moments. It's a bit like a bit of life. There's light moments. There's some very intense moments. And at the end, there's going to be some spoilers here in a way, but at the end, there's a really strong message, that I almost in a sentence, I'm trying to remember how I wrote it, but a cord of three strands is hard to be broken. And that comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, actually, where you're talking about the strength, we could say, of unity, of the strands are together, so basically each one, the total sum, is stronger than the individual parts. Now, there's a lot of that came out actually in this. I even made a few notes because I thought, there's a lot of little things, and I wanted to try and compact it, into many ways. At the end of part 2, actually, Super Tweetnes is going back into her, into her normal duties, her normal superheroine duties, making the world a better place. But in between there, towards the end, when she is talking to the people after all the adventures, she does mention, basically how the group, I call them the League of Friends, alone she could not have gotten out. Even if she was Super Tweetnes, she could not have got out of the problems. She couldn't do everything alone. Needed friends. Sometimes actually you need friends to really help you see the way. And what came out of there, in a way, the message, if you look at the two parts, you'll see that actually the power of love is what was the so-called good magic that broke the spell. And what was the spell? In a way, the spell was isolating the person away from loved ones, making a person lose their identity in a way through almost a type of brain. Well, in this case, of course, it's a comic book, okay? So there was the imagination part, but through almost, we could say, brainwashing, or make a person lose their identity. And that's where friends are really important. There were certain things, that came out. Like if you look at the first part, there was, like I say, the first part was kind of light. The superheroine can pretty well solve everything. Then all of a sudden, there's something that happens. Something that happens that one talks about the consortium. The consortium of people that league against you. Sometimes, when people league against you to make things go bad. And there is one scene which is very evocative, actually. It's we could call it the first knockout punch, where Super Tweetnes is caught by surprise and is actually, for the first time in her superheroine career, knocked out. And she plunges into the sea, and she's revived, actually, through the environment, and does actually is actually victorious in this case. And the criminals didn't realize, actually, they probably thought at that time it was a fake, but she knew what happened, and she actually starts talking about things like this. What would we do if? Now, further on, actually, the if, we could say, happens. The enemies do league together and find a way, which at first almost looks hopeless. It looks like our heroine has been vanquished. But she's fighting back. She's fighting back, and that comes out in part 2, where actually she fights back, and when we ask her to do things that are really against her nature, she rebels somehow. And the evil, we could say, elf queen, she always has this smile. You know, some of you might remember Baldy. Baldy, he looks bad. He looks mean. But the evil elf queen, actually, she's like an angel of light. She smiles and she looks nice, and she's basically nice looking, and nobody would think that she could be. And she actually is probably the most dangerous person of all. And she has ways and means, basically, using dark magic, we could say, of basically isolating, we could say, of eliminating the thoughts that Super Tweetness had that were helping her to fight through it. And in a way, maybe black magic Tweetness, as we call it, the bad version, is it a form of depression? Is it a form of loss of identity? Anyway, at one point, there's a small period in the comic book where black magic Tweetness actually was the dominant person, and it looked at first as if, well, actually there was a moment in the, like I say, in the comic book where the bad guys had actually won, and if it had stayed like that, they would have won. But the League of Friends came, like I say, the power of love came and basically took over. There's one very important moment, and that's kind of cute because Nellie wanted to be in the comic book, so we had Irene took pictures of her and sent them to me, and we worked them out, and where she basically becomes a superheroine when she realizes how much Super Tweetness is in need. All of a sudden the powers come, and she goes through experiences which are no different in a way to the others. She has her dark moments where she all of a sudden gets overwhelmed through lack of experience or what. But she actually does at one point really save the day. So like I say, the power of love is what comes out, and the unity of the group. Now, is there anything else that I wanted to mention? Yeah, actually, a little bit about the chef. The chef, I mean, he looks like a bumbler, and he actually is in many ways, and he kind of knows, though, what to do. He's got maybe he's got some street sense, because he used to be a bad guy in the early versions that we had made in the live-action comics. And probably what I should have said way in the beginning, but I did say it in the vlog before, is that these were all clips of our live-action comics that we had done before. But of course, I mean, like I did say in the video last week or something, we would have had problems making Super Tweetness fly, or something like that, or recreating a Tweety Night bubble. I don't think we would be able to do that. But, so by using these pictures and clips, we put something together that basically brought out a story, really a story of a battle of good and versus evil, and where love wins out finally. Okay. So, just kind of chatting on how you can use your imagination, and of course, if you do have a few, I was going to say, computer programs to help you to make something that actually does create a story, a real storyline. Okay, it was fun. Who knows? Maybe there'll be some other one sometime. Not right now, though. But anyway, okay. So I got to stop. 9 minutes. DC signing off. Take care, everybody.